Let me show you how we can take care of this with one line of code and one expression. And what we're going to be doing is making use of an option that resample has, which is generating this attribute, curve U. Curve U, let's have a look at what this generates. Let me check those points, and I'm going to kind of just hide the references for now. And let's have a look at that parameter, that attribute. I'm going to hit Control, middle mouse button, and just click on the curve U. Make it visible. And what you can see here, I don't know if you can see it clearly enough, but we have a gradient coming from blue to red. If we have a look at the values here for the curve U on the geometry spreadsheet, you'll notice that the values go from 0 to 1. And that's exactly what curve U is. It's an attribute that's going to give us starting at 0 on the first point of the curve and going all the way to 1 on the last point of the curve. And it's great for mapping attributes along a curve. Let me hide this, also disable this as well. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using that attribute to map a special attribute that we're going to use to control the thickness of this section. Right now we have the same thickness from 0 to 1, and we're going to be using that curve U to say that wherever it's 0 it has a thickness, and wherever is 1 it has another thickness, another different thickness, and we'll have a nice transition from one to the other. The way we're going to do that is by using a point wrangle, so PW and enter to create a point wrangle. I'm going to connect this here, and it's really simple. Let's start with the most basic version of this. What we're saying is that we want to create an attribute, and this time it's a float attribute, so it's a decimal number, f attribute, and let's call it my thick. It's going to be equal to the attribute curve U, which is the one that was generated by the resample, times the maximum thickness that we want, which is thickness is 0.005. 0.005. Remember to end with a semicolon. So now if we go to the geometry spreadsheet, we'll have a new parameter. We have our curve U that's going from 0 to 1, and we're multiplying that value, the curve U, by the maximum thickness that we want, which is actually 0.005. So the my thickness parameter is actually going from 0 to 0.005. Great. Now we just need to find a way of connecting this to this. And it's not hard. Let's use copy to points, but we'll use a special copy to points, which is a very powerful feature inside Houdini, which is the copy stamp. And this is the original copy to points actually. So this is the primitives that we want to copy to. Let me just I'll create a copy of this grid, holding Alt, click and drag. Let's connect it here, and we want to give it the points. Nothing seems to be happening, nothing in particular. Now here on the copy stamp, we have the ability of grabbing attributes from the points and having those attributes from the points affect the attributes on the grid, or some parameters on the grid. And for that we go to stamp, and we activate stamp inputs for it to activate that feature. And we have a list of attributes that we want to use as a stamp. And let's say in this case it's the one that we just created, my thick. Now how can we reference this attribute? It's just an expression, so I promised this would be solved with a line of code and an expression. So here where we have the size, we're going to use the expression stamp, and the expression stamp takes 3 inputs. It needs first to know which copy we're going to be referring, or we're going to be grabbing the stamp attributes from. So in this case it's our copy 1. Next, it needs the name of the attribute that's going to be stamping. It's going to be my thick. And finally, it's going to be a default value in case it doesn't find anything. And I'm just going to put 0. Close parentheses, hit enter, and there we have it. As you can see, now we have, let me turn on wireframe, make sure it's on, So I think you can see that now we have the grids being copied to the points using the same attributes as before, using normal and up to orient them. And now we're also using the my thick parameter to control how thick this is. You might be thinking, oh, but that's not a sweep, that's just a copy stamp. But a sweep is nothing more than a copy and a skin operator, which is going to connect all the edges here. So I'm going to apply a skin here and you'll get what I mean. Okay, exactly the same as before. So these two kind of make up this one. Similar. And now we have that amazing, that beautiful gradient happening. This is good, but we still don't have a lot of control. We can't really control what's the thickness here or there. For us to actually have that control, we're going to associate this attribute, the curve U, and feed this curve U attribute into a ramp. And a ramp, basically, it's just going to read the values that are coming from this and remap those values. Meaning that, let's say we have a graph, and this goes from 0 to 1. And right now, the curve U is doing this, from 0 to 1. What we can do is we can feed this transition or these values to a ramp attribute that's going to be reading values from 0 to 1 and converting them into anything we want. So a curve gives us the ability to grab this point, for instance. Let me change the color here to something else. Will give us the ability to redraw the curve however we see fit. We can even start up and invert the curve like this. It's going to be receiving values from 0 to 1 and remapping them based on a curve that we can control. Let me hit escape, go out of this. So how do we do that? Again, one of the most valuable lessons that you can get in Houdini for sure. CH ramp. And this is referencing a channel of a ramp parameter. Let me open parentheses. When you want to create a ramp parameter, you need to give it a name. So this is going to still be a parameter, so it needs to be named. I'm going to call it my ramp. Whenever it's text, it's a string, so if it's a string, it needs to be under quotes. And after you give it a name, you need to give it which attribute it's going to be using for remapping the values. In this case, we want to give it curve U. And this is what we're going to be multiplying by the maximum thickness that we want. Now, as soon as I click outside, this is going to happen, and the reason why this is happening, and we don't even have an error here, but the problem is that this channel still doesn't exist. All you need to do is click this little button here, and magic, you get a ramp here called my ramp, and this will give us the control that we want. Notice how we can add points and vary the thickness however we want. You can remove points just by dragging them out. You can actually right click on them and change the interpolation type. But for us, we just need to grab this one and kind of give it a bit more thickness. Let's actually redirect everything we had here. Let me just grab all of these, pull them up. So we don't need we'll still need the polyfill to fill the gaps. So it's just a matter of connecting this. Then it's going to clip, mirror, all the same stuff as before, reverse, normal. So we just switched from this option to this option, where instead of having a simplified version like this, same thickness all around. We have a system that allows us to control on this point wrangle exactly how thick we want things to go. And this with the boolean and with the blast will give us something much better. Let's go to the front view, spacebar 3, make sure we have our references visible. Let me hide this. And now we're going to be having something that's more relatable to the thickness that we had there.